Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about dowry. Dowry is not something which is new. It has existed in India since ages. And to curb this practice, there are various laws which have been enacted. But that is still present in India. It is still prevalent in India in some way or the other. So in today's video, I will discuss the recent Supreme Court verdict on State of Madhya Pradesh versus Jogendra and another. In this case, Supreme Court held that asking money for constructing house amounts to demand for dowry, and merely because the deceased wife had joined the accused in demanding the same will not absolve the husband from the offense, and it can be presumed that she was compelled to do so. So, such an act will amount to demand for dowry. Now, coming on to the facts of this case. In this case, the trial court convicted the husband and the father-in-law under sections 304B of Indian Penal Code, 498A, and section 306 of Indian Penal Code. So before going further, we will first understand what are these three sections. Section 304B of IPC states dowry death. So if a death of a woman has occurred as a result of any burn or bodily injury otherwise than under normal circumstances, and this has happened within 7 years of her marriage, and soon before her death, she was subjected to any kind of cruelty either by husband or his relatives, then it can be presumed that such death was a dowry death. And any person who has committed dowry death shall be punished with an imprisonment for a term which shall not be less than 7 years, but it can be extended up to life imprisonment. Next section is section 498A of Indian Penal Code, where it has been stated that husband or relative of husband of a woman subjecting her to any kind of cruelty, then such person shall be punished for a term which may extend up to 3 years and shall also be liable to fine. So if husband or relative of a husband is doing any kind of cruelty to a woman, then such person shall be punished. The last section under which the husband and the father-in-law are convicted are section 306 of Indian Penal Code, which talks about abatement of suicide. So if a person commits suicide as a result of the abatement, then such person shall be punished for this offense. Abatement can be understood that such circumstances have been created which are compelling a person to commit suicide, then such person who has created these circumstances will be punished for abatement of suicide, and the punishment is imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. So these were the three sections under which the father-in-law and the husband of the deceased were convicted. Now, the trial court found that the accused had been demanding the money from the deceased for constructing a house, and this demand was not being completed by her parents because they were not able to do so. So the family members of the deceased were unable to give, and as a result, she was constantly harassed and subjected to cruelty, which finally led to her committing suicide. So she was subjected to cruelty, she was harassed for the money, and which resulted in her committing the suicide. After this, once the trial court convicted them, an appeal was filed in the High Court. But in the High Court, it was held that demand for money Demand of money for constructing the house cannot be treated as a demand for dowry. And the court observed that the offense under section 304B was not established against them. Then again, an appeal was filed, and finally, the apex court, in its judgment, delivered the appeal filed by the state and listed 4 prerequisites for convicting an accused for the offense punishable under section 304B. So these are the 4 requisites which we will be discussing in case you are convicting any person under section 304B, then these 4 prerequisites should be established. So the first one is that the death of a woman must have been caused by burns or bodily injury. So there should be burns and bodily injury, and as a result of death, the death of a woman has occurred. Then the death must have occurred within 7 years of her marriage. So the death of a woman should have occurred within 7 years of her marriage. Or third, she was subjected to any kind of cruelty at the hands of her husband or any relative. So that should be necessary. And last is that she was subjected to cruelty or harassment by for dowry or for the demand for dowry. So such kind of cruelty or harassment must have been for or related to any demand for dowry. So these 4 requisites are important before convicting any person under section 304B as provided by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court, the bench, in this case, before the Supreme Court, the bench were comprised of Chief Justice of India N.V. Ramana, Justice A.S. Bopanna, and Justice Hima Kohli. This was the bench, and the bench gave these 4 prerequisites for convicting any person under section 304B, and the bench also held that while dealing with an offense like dowry death under section 304B of the IPC, a liberal and expansive interpretation should be given to the word dowry. It is very important that a liberal interpretation should be taken. And it was also understood that interpretation of a provision of law should be in accordance with the intention with which the legislature made that particular law. So here, for the intention with which the legislature made section 304B was to curb this malpractice of dowry death. So with this intention, they made this law. So while interpreting this particular section, liberal interpretation should be taken. And it was also ruled by the court that dowry ought to be ascribed an expansive meaning so as to encompass any demand made on a woman, whether in respect of a property or a valuable security of any nature. So this was held by the court, this was ruled by the court, the bench which comprised of Chief Justice of India N.V. Ramana, Justice A.S. Bopanna, and Justice Hima Kohli. I hope this video was helpful to all of you. Please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And in case you have any query in regard to legal matters or law-related exams, you can reach out to me on my Instagram ID or on my email. The link for the same is provided in the description below. Thank you very much.